stains in your drinking water, I would say you should take that up with the local. I don't know. Is it your own well water or is it?
Yeah. I'm referring to my well water.
I don't know. Is drinking water delegated?
I should
put aside.
Okay, you've answered my question. Thank you. We can move on. Thank you very much.
All right. I know that two individual, or at least one individual, has to leave at this time because it's 2:05. I appreciate your participation. I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is the soup particles. And I know I did not discuss that, but after I was talking to Mr. Carmen in Texas, he just shared this information with me. So I would like to ask the questions in regards to this as well. Now, I also know that the refinery is down. It's not operational to the degree of emissions at this time, but I'm thinking along the lines that in the event another refinery, or if Hovensa reopens, that we should be paying attention to these type of things going forward. I need clarity to make sure. Is it my understanding that once upon a time, these ultrafine particles less than 1 micron were not regulated or controlled?
This is Rick Ruvo from Air Programs. That's correct. There's no regulation of ultrafine particles anywhere in the United States.
Okay, correct. I understand. Thanks. Okay, so my question then becomes that you guys, meaning EPA, and let me just say nothing directing to individuals. When I say you guys, I mean EPA. EPA as an agency, you had some type of standards back in 1997 and 2012. You changed them because of the fact that you realized that this is more important than I need to confirm why it was changed from 1997 to 2012.
Again, this is Rick Ruvo. The Clean Air Act has provisions that require EPA to review the national ambient air quality standards every 5 years. And so as a result of that ongoing 5-year review, we look at more recent health studies and other information to determine whether we should keep the ambient air quality standards the way they are or whether we should make them more stringent. And so in 2012, after a review of all the health studies, we decided to make the air quality standard for particulates to be more stringent than the earlier 1997 standard that was released.
Okay, thank you. And let me just let my panel understand what soup particles are. These are, like I said before, they're less than 1 microns, and they are harmful in 2 ways. One is because they're very tiny, and they can go deep inside the sensitive lung tissues. And also, they are not captured because they're so small. The flares may not be able to destroy them, and even the smallest puff of smoke, even at I think you can confirm it if you can, that because of this fact, in 1997, the standard was at 65 micrograms, and then after a few years they revised it that the standard should be 35 micrograms per cubic meter. Is this correct?
2.5. Hi. Yeah, just to clarify, the particle size that we're talking about is 2.5 microns. So that's what our standard is based on. The particles that are, greater than 2.5 microns. The standard itself is based on 35 micrograms per cubic meter, and that's based on measurements taken over an annual basis.
Okay.
Could I make one correction? You said that, I'm sorry, this is Mark Mataloni. Rick said for particles greater than 2.5, particles less than 2.5.
Right, less than 2.5.
Okay. All right. So then, to my knowledge, what is this considered that they come from? Is it the cracker? Is it the cracker that the toxics are coming out of?
I mean, particulate emissions, whether it be the large particles or the small particles, will come out from any combustion process or cracking operation. They all have limits. Every unit in the refinery has an emission limit that at least underwent PSD review. So yes, the flares will have particulate emissions. The cat cracker will, the coker will, and all the other heaters at the facility.
Okay. All right. So if my panel doesn't have any more questions, just particular to the soot particles, because you should have the agenda in front of you, and I'm going to really try to just stick with particular points, not straying away. So does anyone have any questions about soot particles, because they're tiny, and the key point that I'm trying to explain to you guys is that you have like this 24-hour fine particle standard, and it's high concentration of the PM 2.5, which is in smoke. So you guys, I don't know if the government was actually they can't regulate it, is what I'm saying, because of that, because of the fact that how small it is. And I'm not too sure if they have any type of instruments that can actually, or monitoring devices that can actually monitor this stuff. So if this is new to you, then it's something that we need to address in the event the emissions start up again. Any questions?
I would like to make a brief statement.
Okay.
We would all who are listening to this conversation right now would have to admit that for many years, Provenza have released particles in the air without the local government or the federal government monitoring what has been done. And I'm not pointing fingers or blaming anyone, but I'm looking at the newspaper, and the family of a 4-year-old is looking for a bone marrow match for this 4-year-old. I have to live here and see these things, hear these things, and first, we're not educating the public enough as to what has happened. We're more focusing on what is happening right now. But the refinery has been closed down for releasing particles in the air, and nobody is paying attention of the aftermath of all these years of the refinery releasing these toxic pollutants into the air. And that's my statement. Thank you.
Okay, if no one else has a comment, then I'm going to...
This is Michael Moncho from
Okay.
Senator O'Reilly's office.
Okay.
Sorry, I need to go here in a few minutes, and the senator asked me to find out what is the status of the consent decree if or after Provenza is sold to a new operator.
I have the consent decree in front of me, and it's a little bit complicated to explain, but there's several paragraphs that deal with how the transfer would be effected in the event that there's a transfer in whole or part of ownership. And I'd be happy to copy out those paragraphs and send them to you so that you have a deeper and fuller understanding. But in basically, they have to condition the transfer in whole or in part upon execution by the transferee of a modification to the consent decree that makes the terms and the conditions applicable to the transferee. So Provenza needs to file with the court to make the terms of the consent decree applicable. And if EPA or the Virgin Islands opposes the motion and the court finds that the transferee does not have the financial and technical ability to assume the obligations and liabilities of the consent decree, that release will not happen. Releasing Provenza from the obligations will not happen under those circumstances. So, rather than read more of this out loud, I'd be happy, as I said, to cut and paste into an email. If you provide your email address to Jeff Garrison or get it to him in some way, I will send you these paragraphs that you'll have the exact terms that we've specified in the consent decree.
And that would be very great. I can give it to you right now, if that's possible. It's just teamnellie@gmail.com.
What is that again?
teamnellie@gmail.com.
Anyone get that?
Please do it again.
Yeah. Team, T-E-A-M.
Is that a T as in Peter?
T, like a baseball team.
Okay, T is in Chris.
E as in Edward. A as in Apple. M as in Michael. Nelly as in no. E as in elephant. L as in lion. L as in iron. I as in igloo. E as in elephant. @gmail.com. Team Nelly @gmail.com. That would be great. Thank you all, and Renee, thank you for setting up this conference. I've got to go.
All right, no problem. Thank you. The next topic is flares. Can you explain to me exactly what the smoke regs for the Virgin Island is? Now, let me explain what I'm looking for. According to Texas, they have a regulation that they cannot see any emission smoke after a 5-minute period. That's pretty much what I'm looking for as well. So can you tell me what is our flare smoke regulations for the Virgin Islands?
We may have to get back to you with an answer on that. I don't know that we have
Okay, and I understand that you may not, so let me just clarify what I'm saying with my panel. The emission smoke, the flame, the tower has these fires on top of them, and they make sure that, they try to capture any toxics. They try to burn it before it even gets out of the tower. So therefore, if you see smoke coming out of the tower, to my recollection and what I've studied or what I was told by Mr. Carmen, is that it's an indication that all toxics are not getting burnt or is not being destroyed. So, Fila, from years go back, we've seen this smoke consistently on these towers. So I need to confirm what our guidelines were now, and even if they can provide what they were, like say in 1980, if you know. And that's all I wanted to say in regards to the flares. And I would really appreciate, Jeff, that if you can follow up on any of the ones that they, meaning your team, stated that they're going to have to get back to me on. Okay?
Yeah, if we could ask a clarifying question so that we can try to get the right answer to your question.
Okay.
So, in here,
Yeah. One question I had was whether you were looking for the opacity standards or the maximum available control technology standards, or both, because we have regs that are particular to flaring that are under our that standards, and we also have federal actually state, or in this case the Virgin Islands rules that are put into our implementation plan, which are then federally enforceable, dealing with opacity. So, what are you looking for?
And because I'm neither a lawyer or I work for the government, I just gave you an example of what I'm looking for, like Texas. Now, I know you are in Region 2 and Texas might be in another region. But if you can consult with anyone on your side for Texas, they have a rule that prohibits smoke or visible emissions from the refinery waste gas flares.
Yeah,
this is Rick Ruvo. We call that opacity, visible emissions, and there are visible emission rules for the Virgin Islands. We just don't have them